Hello. You may remember that I had a First Impressions upload back in October, and I said it was part 1 of 2. Well, I did start doing part 2, but I didn't want to get it out until I was completely done with every single thing that I had planned to watch. So I had talked about every single thing that I wanted to. Well, that ended up taking more time than I expected, and I got distracted by some other things, so it kind of just went on to the point where I'm just like, well, at this point, there's no point in having a First Impressions this late. So I just kind of put it off until the middle of the season, and so now you're going to get a kind of a mid-season impressions, this time including everything. No splitting this episode up. I'm talking about every single anime that I started and didn't drop. And the only anime that I dropped was Renai Flops, which I talked about in my First Impressions and on the podcast. If you want maybe some more coherent thoughts, then go to my podcast, go listen to Tokyo Podfathers, because I am definitely a lot better at talking on there. This is going to be very rambly and not very well spoken, so I apologize for that. And it's basically just going to be me pointing my phone at my face and talking into it the entire time. So it's not going to be a very interesting video, but still, some people might want to hear me talk about these things. Oh, and also, I'm back in my usual room. I just got back into here literally last night, so over the course of this video, you're going to see a bit of a setting change. That's not very important. I just felt like sharing that. Anyway, thanks for watching this, and yeah, see ya. The Witch from Mercury is a very okay anime. That is my honest assessment of it after 6 episodes. It's okay. Which doesn't mean it's bad or anything, and I don't even have any glaring criticisms of it. It just hasn't done a whole lot so far. Like I said, it has been very okay. I stand by what I said about it earlier, where I called it a magic high school battle harem series, and that is what the main character is kind of doing. She's going around dueling people and then making them fall in love with her, because she did that to the asshole guy who his name is Gule Jeturk. I have instead renamed him to G Fuel Ted Jerk, because I think that is a way funnier name. So that guy's now crushing after Suletta, but he's a total tsundere about it. I'm actually really liking this character. He's actually a lot of fun, and his chemistry with Suletta is really funny. So he's actually the best character in the show now, after I hated him in the first episode because he was the most obnoxious piece of shit. And then there was this other guy that was introduced in episode 5 that I mean, what, he didn't like crush after Suletta, but that was kind of the direction they were going until they started doing a thing that they did in the prologue, and it hit really hard in the prologue. They basically do the same exact gut punch. Like they do the exact same trick, the exact same attack that they used in the prologue, and I can't believe it worked. It actually fucking worked, and that was a heartbreaking episode. Damn. So at the end of episode 6, I'm just like, oh, this actually is going to potentially hit on the highs that the prologue left off of, because that was kind of my main complaint about that, or my main complaint from my First Impressions, where I said the prologue was way better than the actual series. So far, that's still kind of true, but we're finally starting to see some of what made that prologue so good appear in the TV series. So we'll see where this goes. For what it's worth, this seems like it's going to be a lengthy series. It's a 2-cour series, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's another 2 cours hiding somewhere on the horizon, because that's what they did with Iron-Blooded Orphans. That was a 24-episode or 25-episode series, maybe 26, who fucking cares? A 2-cour series that went on, and then a year later they did another 2-cour. So it could be that long. I wouldn't be surprised. And I guess I would watch more of it. Like, it's fun. Like that's the thing. The show's fun. I'm just not, like, super hooked on it. Like, I'll watch it. I'm watching it, and I'm kind of enjoying it. I just don't have any strong feelings about it right now. This is like a 6 out of 10 for me. It's okay. I guess my main complaint is that I kind of find Suletta to be annoying honestly. Like her whole stammering shtick and her shyness was maybe kind of funny, but it is definitely worn out its welcome by now, and I'm just not that into her anymore. And I feel like the show was kind of feeding off its own memes, where people are probably like, "Ooh, look at this character who's making a lot of funny noises." This anime was made, or this character was written specifically for the purpose of people making the sounds compilations videos. You know those videos where it's like Kumiko from Hibike Euphonium making funny noises. You know, just like a character makes noises compilation that's like 30 minutes long. That's what this anime, that's what Suletta was designed for. Whoever's making this anime knows exactly what anime fans want, okay? They want school anime, they want gay girls, and they want funny noises, and they want like tough guys who are actually tsunderes. They want some cute shy boy twinks. This anime has everything. It has everything that a modern audience would want, but also because it feels a little bit too calculated. I'm just like, I see through this, and it's not really hitting me all that well. But again, no huge complaints about it. It's fine. There might have been something else. Oh, I guess I mentioned the people who are making it. Yeah, I mean, is it Sunrise or Sunrise? Right? Sunrise is responsible for, because I know Satellite does other stuff. I think Satellite is the one that does Macross. Satellite's the Macross studio and a bunch of other stuff, and Sunrise is Gundam. Okay, so I'm going to assume Gundam. Yeah, it's a Sunrise series. It's a Gundam series. It's very well made. It's very well polished. Everything about it looks good. They've got a Yoasobi OP. Like, it's all solid. So yeah, good looking anime. It's fun. It has lots of things that people like. I'm just not super enthusiastic about it, but I'm going to keep watching because it's not bad. I highly recommend watching Pop Team Epic while drunk. I've been binging the first 6 episodes, and this is so great. There we go. I actually take that. That was so fast. I love this show. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. I have Reggie in my lap. Say hi to the camera, Reggie. Pop Team Epic. I watched Pop Team Epic. I've seen the first 6 episodes of Pop Team Epic. I should pause this. Taken a long time to get to Pop Team Epic because for some reason I thought this was a full-length series. I forgot that this is a short series disguised as a full-length. Because what they do was it's a 12-minute show. I've been drinking extremely heavily. I'm sorry for any mistakes in this segment. It's a 12-minute segment, but then they play it twice, and fuck. What they do is the second segment is with male voice actors, as opposed to the first segment, which has female voice actresses. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know why they do that. Like, it was funny the first time. It was crazy and funny the first time it happened, because it was so shocking and so weird. But now, like, we've seen the first season of Pop Team Epic, okay? So we know that that's what they did. So the second season, it's like, we understand the joke. Like, we understand what you've done already. We're not going to be taken by surprise the second time. I'm not really sure what the point of having a second set of Seiyu does for this series. It's very strange, and I don't know. I kind of just skip it, personally. The one thing I was looking forward to, maybe, the thing that would have justified it, is that every episode in the second season, there is a a boys love segment. It's Pop Team Epic, but if it was a boys love. Okay. So the female Seiyu in the first part kind of talk in this low, seductive tone as if they're trying to be men, as if they're trying to have manly voices. I was really hoping that actually they would have male voice actors in that part, and then the second half with the male Seiyu would have female Seiyu voice acting that boys love segment. Unfortunately, that is not what they have done. I'm going to lay down on my bed because I'm fucking... I'm so drunk. Holy shit. But yeah, so they did not do that. Hello, Reggie. Reginald. Fat Chungus cat. You know what I love about this cat? You can just... like, cats are very interesting. Okay? Each cat has its own comfort zone, you know, its own personal space, like a human does. Some cats don't like to be manhandled too much. Is that a word, manhandling? Yeah. They don't like a lot of physical contact. Reggie, meanwhile, you can just go like, just slap him around, punch him, just beat him up. You can grab his tail and whack it and just grab it and whoop. And he doesn't really mind that much. That's what I love about Reggie. And I do have other cats that will not tolerate that whatsoever. But again, it's what I'm saying. Anyway, Pop Team Epic. So yeah, I guess that's my main complaint about it. I don't really care for the second part of the episode. I just skip it. It is funny, kind of seeing what they do in the second part to change. They do change some things in the second part. They change the ED usually, and there's a segment at the end of each part where it's the two Seiyu from that half of the episode just talking. And it seems to be a very improvisational sort of thing. Some of them are just like talking as if they're just friends talking and catching up to each other. So it's kind of fun, kind of nice. So I at least watch that. Yeah, and I mentioned, yeah, it's a pair of Seiyu for each part because they also change the Seiyu for each episode. So there's a lot of work that is done for Pop Team Epic. I guess I haven't explained that Pop Team Epic is just it's like a variety hour, but for anime. That's what it is. It's variety hour, but for anime. There are tons of little segments in this show. Some segments are completely unique. You'll get them for like 10 seconds and then it's never brought up ever again. Some segments are recurring. And so far there is one from the second season which is called Bobu Mebimimi or something like that, which is just this weird ass segment that is drawn with this in this really grotesque style. I think it might be the best way of describing it. It's a very experimental sort of thing. It's a completely experimental show that has lots of different collaborators as a part of it. They all have their own different styles. So yeah, sometimes you'll get a segment that like makes no sense whatsoever. It's just like a 15-second joke, basically. Sometimes you'll get segments that are like 5 minutes. And sometimes you'll get segments that appear over and over again throughout the season. Like Bobu Mimi or whatever the fuck it's called. It's fucking great. It's so much fun. It's genuinely funny though. Like, I don't want to describe Pop Team Epic as if it's this total meme shit anime. It is genuinely funny. This show has some really, really great jokes. There's one that I really loved, and I posted it on Twitter, where the two characters, Papuko and Pipimi, those are the two characters of Pop Team Epic, and they're just drawn in all kinds of different ways. They do all kinds of different things, whatever. So anyway, they're in a radio booth, and they're like, oh, how did this shit anime get a second season? And that's a comment. Yeah, okay. So they were taking feedback from the first season. So they're like, so one of them is like, oh, we got a fan letter. How did this shit season how did the shit anime get a second season? And then the other one is like,
Oh, well, the characters of Pop Team Epic are just so cute. They make you want to die. And they just stare at you for like 10 seconds. I'm like, wait, did Pop Team Epic just try to get me to kill myself? I'm not gonna lie, that's a first. Yeah, there are lots of really, really great segments like that. Like, there's another one, I think in the first episode, where they do this crazy musical number. Some parts are really, really elaborate and look like they took a lot of effort to make, which is probably the funniest thing about it. And then at the end, they're like standing in a pose. You know, it's the big finish. And there are all these background characters standing with them, and then another one is like, "Who the fuck are you guys?" And they just punches all of them so that they leave. Yeah, there are some violent, angry outbursts in this anime. It's all over the place, but intentionally so. Watch the first season if you've never seen it. It's great. I really, really love it. Second season is kind of living up to the hype, although I do think that there is a little bit of familiarity with this series. Kind of with the Bubba Mimi, although that's so wild and just so out there and so experimental that it never gets old, really. But I wish there were some more unique segments, you know? Like, episode 6 had a visual novel segment, and it was just a really, really generic visual novel. It's like, I mean, I enjoy it, I get it, I find it funny, but at the same time, it's like, like, who, like, this isn't a very original joke, I don't think. The most original thing about it is that there was a game over, and then the camera cuts to an actual person playing it. There are live action segments in this anime, which is one of the funniest things about it. But yeah, it didn't strike me as that original of an idea, you know? I wish there was something like Hell Shake Yano from the first season. If anyone's seen the first season of Pop Team Epic, you understand what the fuck Hell Shake Yano is. It's one of the greatest things that has ever graced anime. It's so great. And I'm not saying that they should do Hell Shake Yano again. That's kind of my point. The first season had these really, really wild and out there ideas. And second season does as well, but it hasn't quite gotten to the just like, okay, what the fuck am I watching levels that first season did. I think that's my main complaint about it. I dropped my phone. Holy fuck, I'm fucking drunk. I'm going to go to bed, but I do love Pop Team Epic. I'm going to come back in a month and a half and watch the next 12 episodes while also very much drunk. I drank like 6 beers and took 3 shots. Some people are probably like, ooh, that's lightweight. Yeah, I don't drink that much, fucko, okay? What's it to you? Oh my god, I just realized the 6th episode of... Okay, so the ED, they play the same song, but they kind of do a different take on it every time. So the 6th episode, the ED is a first take parody. I just now realized that, because it seems like it's playing normally, but it's like, it's Papako walking up to a microphone in an all-white room. I never noticed this, but yeah, it's like the song plays normally and she's just singing it, and then she just busts out of her corner and plays it really shit. Yeah, in the second half, and it's great. And then at the end, it just flashes Pop Team Epic, and I'm like, oh wait, oh it's a first take parody. That is so fucking funny, dude. Holy shit, I'm glad I noticed that. That's so good. I have to talk a little more about Pop Team Epic, because it's the day after I recorded the thing about the first 6 episodes. I am no longer drunk, and also Jeffrey is on the bed. Hi, Jeff. Look at this big orange buddy. Are you jealous of me? Are you jealous that my best friend is a big orange cat? He's a big friend. We call him the Big Friend, because everyone loves Jeff. His name, Jeff.
I have to talk about episode 7 of Pop Team Epic. It's the greatest episode of anime ever created. I mentioned the Hellshake Yano skit from season 1 when I was doing my seasonal preview, and I said that I actually kind of don't want them to do Hellshake Yano again because the novelty of it is just so great that it kind of works one time. I don't think it would be funny if they did it a second time. I want them to continue doing new and different things. Oh, how wrong I was. That is an L take right there. Because not only did they bring back Hellshake Yano, they dedicated the entire episode to Hellshake Yano. And I mean the entire episode. So the OP is in the style of Hellshake Yano. The ED, they have a fucking ad break. This shit is so genius. The style, like the sort of performance art on display is amazing. How they did it in one take is beyond me. It actually just really makes me think, like, what does it take to work on something like this? Like, what would happen if in the middle of the performance they just like accidentally rip one of the pages and it's just like, oh, it's just fucked now. I don't know, man, but it was amazing. It was genius. This is real anime. Sometimes I'll take an out of context screen cap and then say real anime, but Pop Team Epic is that. Pop Team Epic is real anime. Everything about it is just so fucking great, and I absolutely love this episode. Yeah, my friend Scalizzo was posting the screenshots on Twitter. I'm like, oh my god, these guys are back. They actually did an episode with these guys again, and he's like, yeah, actually, the entire episode is this, and I'm like, oh, I need to see this right now, and it did not disappoint. Absolutely incredible. Pop Team Epic, greatest anime of all time. So, I watched the first 7 episodes of this anime called Koukyuu no Karasu, or Raven of the Inner Palace. It is something that I said I was going to watch on the podcast. I did intend to watch it for the sake of the podcast, but I just ran out of time. I had not really heard anything about this anime, but I knew that it was talked about on Just Weebs with my friends Shah and Onimaru, and I think they were positive about it, so I'm like, oh, I'll give it a try. And funny enough, I did record a first impressions of this, I think after the first 4 episodes, because I watched it after I did the first impressions, which is when the first part went up. And so, yeah, I do have a recording of me talking about my first impression, which was not positive. I'm going to be honest. I did not like this anime when I first saw it. I thought it was extremely boring, and I just kind of wasn't sure what the point of it was, aside from the fact that it's different, you know? It's one of those anime that you probably watch just if you're watching a lot of seasonal anime, because it's different from all the other seasonal anime. This is what seemed to be an episodic mystery series set in China from, I don't fucking know when, but before modern civilization, let's put it that way. Maybe my anime list can tell me. Yeah, I have no fucking clue. Whatever. Point is, it's like a historical timepiece sort of thing. Sorry, my brother-in-law is moving stuff upstairs. And it was it's interesting and it's different, but nothing about it was like appealing to me, and I didn't really even understand who it would appeal to, because it's just so, like, I don't even really know how to describe it in a good way, or even in a neutral way. I just like could not get a grasp of this show, but I still chose to stick around just because I'm like, I haven't seen fucking any anime in the last like 2 years. I might as well just keep going and not drop stuff. What I'm doing right now literally is I'm just playing Pokemon TCG online. That's what I'm doing while watching this anime. It's fine. It doesn't have to be engaging to me. I'll find a way to enjoy it. And I gotta say, it's a really good thing that I didn't do that second part of the impressions with this anime, because literally right after I like stopped watching it for a couple of weeks, the episodes that have come out since then have been way more interesting and have actually kind of gone somewhere. This anime is starting to, it feels like there is much more of a concrete plot. I mean, I kind of knew that it was going somewhere. Like, I don't want to say it was, you know, literally nothing. Because what this anime is about is that there is someone known as the Raven Consort, and she's like this very mysterious person who has all these different like powers, and she has a very, very unique purpose within the palace. And so there's the Emperor, who just kind of meets her, and they both have like this, they both have these cursed pasts, basically. It's like an emperor who was never really supposed to be, he was never supposed to take on the role that he has, and the Raven Consort is just kind of like trapped in, her own position. She's just like, she's basically just forced into, this role just against her will, essentially, and it just sucks. So yeah, I don't know. It was like that's kind of interesting. It kind of feels like it has a bit of, it's like a fable. It feels like it would be a fable, and I feel like it would actually probably work really well as a musical. That's kind of what I get out of it. I think. But I don't know. Still, it just didn't really appeal to me. But the last two episodes I watched, episodes 6 and 7, were actually pretty solid. Like, I gotta say, they got a lot more serious, and it didn't feel like they were just kind of one-offs. Like I said, I felt like it was an episodic mystery at first, because that is what the first few episodes felt like. It felt like they were just kind of solving these, you know, mysteries, and that's why I was so just like, what's the point of all of this? Like, this is just nothing, essentially. But these last couple episodes have actually done some stuff to move the story along, and I guess that's kind of cool. And the characters are getting fleshed out a lot more. It's a lot more dramatic and stuff, and yeah, I gotta say, it's just all right. Like, it's all right. I'm still not loving it. I'm still not like, oh man, the show's, you know, so great, so crazy. But it's like, it's doing something. So I'm glad that I didn't shit on it earlier. I still don't have a glowing recommendation, and I still can't talk about it in a very good way, a very strong way. But again, it's all right. It's all right. I just completely forgot about something in regards to Raven of the Inner Palace. There was this one line of dialogue that I thought was very strange, and it was basically saying, they said something about boiled water that had been cooled down, which it doesn't sound that strange out of context, but it was like the way they said it was really, really weird, and I was like, what the fuck are they talking about, dude? So I got into like this weird debate about what water tastes like, essentially, and then I ended up boiling water and then pouring it in a bottle. And I have had this for like 3 weeks. It has just been sitting there waiting to be drunk. So here's like the regular water that I would normally drink. Okay. Normal drinking water. This is the same water that was then boiled and then put back into a bottle. Granted, it's been a couple of weeks since I did this, so who knows, maybe you can call tampering if you want. I don't know, felt like I needed to prove this point. The people who I was arguing with have probably long forgotten about it by now, but I don't know, maybe they'll see this. So here's a taste test of water that was once boiled and is no longer boiled. It is now just room temperature water. Let me get this again. You know how people say water has no taste? I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like water tastes like water. This tastes like more water than this tastes. Does that make any sense at all? there's just something, it is, like, slightly different, or maybe it's like a placebo effect. Maybe I've been led to believe that it tastes different. Yeah, I don't know. It's like there's just the slightest hint of something different in this bottle than this one, which is the same water, but this one was once boiled. I don't know if it's particularly better or worse. I think it's less noticeable with this, but maybe that's just because I drink this a lot more often than boiled water. But there we go. There's the boiled water that is no longer boiled water taste test. I'm sure you were all dying to know about that. You were probably just like, what the fuck was the point of this segment? So I am caught up on Do It Yourself, although by the time I upload this, there might be another episode out. I don't think that's a big deal. It's a club show, high school club show about do-it-yourself projects, DIY projects, and it's pretty cool. It has a very, very loose art style that really, I honestly, like, you don't have to take this as a criticism. I think it's all right, but they really over-animate the characters. Like, there are lots of instances in this show where a character moves way more than they have any necessity for. And it's just like, it's like, you know what, if you can do that, might as well. It makes it a little more fun, I guess. Yeah, the character designs are all right. It's very pleasant. Not exactly a comfy, relaxing show, although it is something I'm having to watch in the background while I just do other stuff. It's not something I'm really focusing on, and I think that's the kind of series it's going for, or the sort of vibe, the sort of role it's going for. I think that's alright. The one thing I actively dislike, though, is the main character's childhood friend, who is just such a fucking bitch. Like, she sucks so... Like, she's been friends with the main character. The main character's name is Yuaserefu, by the way. Yourself. Like, that's like a funny English way of saying yourself. So, anyway, this other girl, who they called Pudding, they were supposed to go to the same school together, but because Serufu is a dumbass, she wrote down the wrong school by accident, and so they go to different schools. And so Pudding is a little bit upset by that, but she's such a fucking asshole about it, like, all the time. Like, I mean, she's lightening up in the more recent episodes, but still, in the early episodes, she's like, ugh, shut up, Serufu, I don't want to talk to you, like, all the time. And it's like, Jesus Christ, why are you so mean, dude? I mean, I get it, they're going for a tsundere act, and she's not, like, actually that mad or whatever, but still, it just comes off really, really obnoxious, and I really dislike it. It really fucks up the vibe of the show, because the show is supposed to be friendly and uplifting and fun, and then you got this one character who's just like, fuck you. I don't like that. I do like the English character, who looks exactly like Walnut from Lycoris Recoil, and has basically the same role, where she's young looking. I think she's actually supposed to be younger than everyone else in the show, because she's super smart, she has this crazy technology. Actually, the whole setting has some kind of technological crazy shit in it. Like, Pudding has some kind of robot in her house that is always talking to her and doing a bunch of stuff for her. She has, like, a robot butler, basically. It's one of those things where it's just, like, it's just there, and they don't explain it, but okay. So anyway, so this other girl, I actually forgot her fucking name. All I can think of is Walnut, or Lycoris, from Lycoris, when I see her and think of her. But so, Walnut, she has some other crazy technology shit in here. And also, she's American, so she says a lot of words in English, which is normally a trope that I hate. I usually hate it when there's an anime character who is of a different nationality than everyone else, and so they have to force that upon you by having them say words in their native language for no reason. And obviously the voice actress has no idea how to actually say these words, or hasn't been trained to talk in that language regularly, so it just comes off really broken and like this character doesn't actually know how to speak that language. And so that's kind of the case with this other girl, but at the same time, I don't know, I guess the fact that it's English makes her really funny. So, yeah. Anyway, not like super enthusiastic about this anime, but it's alright. It's serving its purpose. I love watching it while like playing something else in the background. And yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I understand there are some people who are just like, this is the best anime of the season by far, what? And yeah, it's alright. I'm not one of those people, I'm sorry. You hear that? That's the sound of me being caught up to Peter Grill, Season 2. I'm watching Peter Grill. It's kind of like a running joke, just because we watched, me and the fellows on the podcast, we watched the first season. Okay, you can stop now, this song sucks. We watched the first season because it came out in summer 2020, which was the season where basically every anime got canceled because of coronavirus. So the fact that it's back, it's like, how did this get a second season? I don't know. But yeah, I'm just watching it again because I'm just mildly curious, I guess. Now that I am watching it, now that I'm halfway into it, I'm just like, why did I start this? I guess it's funny to see how many innuendos they can stuff into this anime. That's funny. Whoever's subtitling this anime, good freaking job, bro. Other than that, it's an ecchi short series. It's not very good, but mildly amusing, I guess. It goes by so quickly that it's like nothing, so I guess that's a cool thing about it. So I'm caught up on Spy X Family. There were 6 or 7 episodes, or 8. The second part. I don't know. And this has been strange for me because I've always said that I've read the manga for the first year or so, and the things I distinctly remember were up to Anya getting a dog. That was like the last thing I vividly remember. And I knew I had read some stuff beyond that. I just kind of dropped it at some random point. And so far, I feel like they're still adapting chapters that I remember. Even if they're very, very vague, I kind of remember the punchline. Or that could just be the result of Spy X Family having very predictable punchlines at this point. So I guess my complaints about this series are that, well, rather, the reason why I kind of fell off with keeping up with the manga is because it just started to kind of continue doing the things that it had already been doing. It was kind of recycling its own formula. It's a good formula, and it's still an enjoyable series, but it's like, at this point, it's just like, all right, where are we going with this? How long are we going to just kind of do the same thing over and over again? Like, these last couple episodes have just been, oh, we're going to have this plot that's about this one thing, but then the joke is that that's not actually what happens, and then it's like, oh, big shock reaction, something like that. So like there's this thing about this one kid who thinks that he's going to be removed from the school because his family went bankrupt, and so he gets everybody to feel bad for him and shower him with praise. And then it turns out that his family wasn't actually bankrupt, they're actually fine, so he just goes back to school the next day. And it's like, okay, it's like kind of funny, but at the same time, you just see it coming from a mile away. And so the joke kind of becomes less funny the longer it goes on, because it's like, okay, I know what's going to happen, dude. And then the same thing happened the very next skit or whatever, where Yoru thinks that Anya forgot her gym clothes. So she sneaks into school to give Anya her gym clothes. And then Anya's like, but we don't have school today. And then once again, it's like, you knew that was going to be the outcome. Like either the outcome is going to be Anya doesn't have gym, so that it wasn't something that Yoru needed to do. Or I guess it would be something that Anya needed. And then it would just be like, okay, that's it. So the only way to make it funny was to have it be not the result you would expect. And that's exactly what happened. again, this show isn't bad or anything. I'm just kind of complaining about it because, you know, it's really popular and people love it a lot. But my main gripe with this series at this point is Yoru as a character. And this is not any fault of Yoru specifically. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, Chizuru from Rent-a-Girlfriend, where you dislike the character not because of the character, but because of the series that she's in. Because it just doesn't feel like she's given proper respect, if you want to call it that. Basically, my complaint with Yoru is that Yoru's character is so nothing. Like it's just almost pandering at this point, because her entire character is just that she's a waifu. Like that's what Yoru is at this point, and at any point. She has not had any development whatsoever. I would often call, or rather, I've compared Spy X Family favorably to Kaguya-sama, because I think they are very similar in the kind of comedies that they're trying to be. And one of the biggest comparisons that I have, sorry, let me start over. The reason why I think it's very similar to Kaguya-sama is because you have these characters that are kind of multifaceted. It's like on one hand, they're trying to be this, but on the inside, they're actually something completely different, and they're trying to not show that part to the other person. But what makes Kaguya so great is that both Kaguya and Miyuki, the two main characters, are equally complex. Each of them have so much depth to them, and even the side characters, Chika, Hayasaka, so much depth to them. In Spy X Family, Anya is the only character that has any depth whatsoever. Okay? Because what's the hook of Spy X Family is that, you know, Lloyd is actually a spy, even though he just tries to be like a normal, everyday family man. And Yoru is an assassin, even though she also tries to be a normal, everyday household wife. And then Anya is an Esper who can read minds, even though she's just supposed to be a regular school child. Right? So that's the hook of it. But you take away the fact that Anya is an Esper, and her character is still great. All the stuff with Anya's school life has been hilarious. It has been so much fun to watch. This character is actually really, really good and really, really well written. When you take away Lloyd's profession, when you take away the fact that he's an assassin, there's nothing to this character, which I guess can be somewhat justified, because I guess that's kind of the point, because he's supposed to be a spy and he's not really supposed to be like a real person. And I think the show can kind of get away with this because it has him do stuff that is so ridiculous that you can just kind of be caught up with that. But then Yoru, there's nothing to this character. You take away the fact that she's an assassin, and again, nothing to this character, except you don't even really see her do anything crazy like Lloyd. Like, yeah, she'll have these occasional outbursts where she demonstrates some immense physical feats. You know, like in this episode that I was just kind of complaining about, where she is just like jumping over buildings and shit. It's like, yeah, she can do that, but it's so random and so seldom that it doesn't really elevate her character all that often. And yeah, she's just really like boring to watch. She's just really nothing. It's like she's just there to be eye candy for the audience. Very great character design, and Saori Hayami is voicing her, so awesome in that regard. But there's just nothing interesting about her at this point. And it again, it makes me upset at the show itself rather than the character, because there was an episode where they try to lean into this, where it's like, ooh, this episode's going to be focused on Yoru. Like, she had her one specific character-focused episode, and it's like, ooh, we're going to learn more about Yoru. That's kind of how they set it up in the very beginning of the episode, where it's like, ooh, this episode's going to be crazy, it's going to be dramatic, and it's going to be about Yoru, where she's finally going to get some screen time. And then it actually, once again, it's not actually what you think it is, it's just her trying to learn how to cook. Because I guess that's a funny quirk about her personality, her character, is that she can't cook at all, which, okay. That was the episode. So it's just her learning how to be a waifu more. It was, yeah. So that's my rant on Spy X Family, I guess. Not a bad show. Again, not a bad show by any means. Extremely well presented. Everything about it is great. The ED for this second part is one of my favorites of the entire year. It probably would be my favorite of the year if not for the Maximum the Hormone ED and Chainsaw Man, because Maximum the Hormone is one of my favorite fucking bands. But yeah, I mean, again, it's an enjoyable series, but I'm now at that point where I'm like, okay, this is why I started falling off with the manga, and this is why I started thinking that it wasn't so great. So there are still a few episodes left of this second season, so hopefully something will happen to win me back over, I guess, and make me think, oh yeah, this is why Spy X Family is so good. I am now caught up on Blue Lock, and this show is fucking awesome. This shit rules, dude. Admittedly, I've not kept up with like any sports anime in the last ever. But what I love about Blue Lock is that it's basically an anti-sports anime. It's not about teamwork. It's not about, you know, all of those fun, sappy things that make team anime usually really, really great, like working together and working hard and the determination and things like that. Instead, Blue Lock is about the individual and egoism, as they constantly say, because it's about one specific position. It's a soccer anime where every single character is the guy on the team that is supposed to score the most goals. So each of them is trying to be the absolute best at that position, yet at the same time, they're formed into groups and have to play as teams. So there's tons of weird chemistry and strategy, and also tons of double-cross potential, and everything about it is sold with just so much passion. This anime is very, very intense. I mean, it's lighthearted and fun like any anime would be in most situations, but those climactic moments, you know, like when someone scores a goal, when there's a big turning point in the game, they're sold with such great animation, such great stylization, and just such intensity. It's like, yeah, it's so cathartic and awesome. This show is fucking awesome. I just love it. I can't, like, talk about it at length because I don't know if there's anything super complex about it that I need to talk about, but I'm just loving it. Like, definitely one of my favorite anime this season, and one of my favorite anime this year out of everything I've seen so far, honestly. I guess my favorite thing about it is the guy who runs the whole facility. Each of these, there's 300 players in this facility, and it's run by some absolute fucking wacko. Actually, here's something I could talk about a little bit. This guy reminds me, this anime in a way reminds me of this manga that I read a long time ago. I never finished it because I dropped it because it started getting silly, and I thought it was about to end, and then it went on for like 5 more years, so it has like 300 chapters that I haven't read. And I thought at one point it would get an anime adaptation, and to this day I'm still shocked that it hasn't happened. Anyway, it's called Real Account. It's basically Sword Art Online, but social media based, which sounds terrible and stupid, but it's actually pretty good, at least for the first few dozen chapters. It got really silly after like 50 or so. But anyway, what I liked about that, what I liked about that manga was kind of like what I'm talking about, is how on one hand, people, it's like you yourself have to do what you need to do to win and to survive, but sometimes you have to work together, and it has lots of, you know, weird collaborations and also lots of betrayals. And the guy who ran the game in that was just this bizarre, unhinged freak of nature that you can't really entirely get a grasp on. He's just such an asshole, basically. Like, he's always, in a way, like he has useful things to say, and useful things to teach, but at the same time, he's always like, yeah, I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you, you guys are fucking stupid and terrible, and you don't know what you're doing. And that's kind of what the guy in Blue Lock reminds me of. That's kind of how he is. Maybe not entirely assholeish, because he's not like a villain, unlike the guy in Real Account, but Yeah, I love him. He's just so fucking weird. He even looks weird. I love it when there's a weird character who acts as weird as they look. And, oh, and everybody looks like a Danganronpa character. Except for the most recent episode that I saw, where they have two guys that look like they come from All Out. If anyone has seen that series. I haven't seen it either, but I at least am a little bit familiar with the character designs. They're fucking terrible. Although in Blue Lock, they're, like, intentionally ridiculous, because they are ridiculous characters. There's lots of ridiculousness in this. Admittedly, this is not a logical series at all, and I kind of explained this on a podcast, on the Tokyo Podfathers podcast. Like, the way they're doing this in Blue Lock, this is not at all how you coach players. This is not at all how you train players. And I do like, actually, how they addressed this in the anime, where the guy who's leading it, his girlfriend or whoever the fuck, is like doing a press conference and explaining, oh yeah, we're going to find the best striker for Japan's national team by locking 300 people into a building and having them fight to the death. And the press is just like, that is the stupidest idea anybody has ever come up with. What the fuck are you doing? And she has the same exact attitude as the guy, where she's like, yeah, you don't get it because you're fucking idiots, but this is how we're gonna win. It's like, it's not convincing at all, but it doesn't really matter. Just what happens in this series is a ton of fun. Could not recommend it enough. It's great. If you can get over the absurdity of it and just appreciate the in-game action and the very unique challenges that this has within the sport of soccer, or football, I guess. Actually, I just described this to my brother-in-law, because he was talking about iShield 21 when I was showing him this, and I'm like, yeah, imagine if iShield 21, imagine if iShield 21 was an anime where every single character was a quarterback. Like, that's what Blue Lock is. And yeah, it's great. So like I was saying, if you can get over the absurdity of it and just appreciate what happens moment to moment in the anime, it's a ton of fun. I'm loving this. I want more episodes right now, honestly, because each of them is so great and then leaves with something really, really interesting to hook you on. Not necessarily cliffhangers all the time, but I just want to see what happens next all the time. So yeah, really loving this.
まだモブ式奥義は47も残っている。勝者ローズオリマーダだ。まだ僕は
They've been doing this gag for like 5 fucking minutes. This show has a 7.8 on my anime list. I know my room doesn't look great, but that's fine. What matters is what I have to say about this anime. The frickin' Evanescence in Shadow, or whatever the fuck its stupid ass name is. Look. This show just confirms everything that I say about Konosuba. When I say Konosuba is one of the most underrated anime out there, and people do not appreciate it enough or respect it enough, people look at me weird. They give me weird looks, like, what are you talking about? Konosuba is a super popular anime, everyone knows about it. But do they actually know Konosuba? Because when people talk about Konosuba, it's like the only things they remember is, oh, Megumin explosions, Aqua stupid, hi Kazuma death, darkness titties, whoa, fucking animation and shit. People don't realize what Konosuba has actually done. What Konosuba did in 2016, or technically before that with the light novels, but we'll just go by anime times. In 2016, Konosuba made a parody of many different isekai that didn't even exist yet. Like, it made an isekai story that was ridiculous, it was comical, it was goofy, and it was totally out of character from what little we had of isekai at the time. Overlord, No Game No Life, Sword Art Online. That was pretty much it back then, okay? So it didn't have a lot to really cover.
And yet, 7 years later, it's like every single isekai, or 6 years later, sorry, every single isekai that comes out is something that Konosuba already did. Okay? All these stories about mundane life in another world, you know, just having a relaxing, good old time. Konosuba did that. Or in the fucking Eminence of Shadow, this guy gets his mafia bitch squad. You know, he gets them together, and well, he doesn't really do anything, but they go off and use the things that this guy took from the real world and taught them in the isekai world, and then they made a store with these real-world inventions. So they make a trendy store with high fashion, and they sell chocolate, and all this stuff that normally wouldn't exist in this isekai world. But this guy technically brought it in from our world. Konosuba did that already. It fucking did that. When people talk about Konosuba, they both love it and hate it because it's like a big meme show. It's you know, funny memes. It has 4 jokes. And then they completely ignore the actual main plot of the series. The main point of Konosuba, which is that it's about Kazuma and Aqua fighting the Demon King, except nothing that happens in the series has anything to do with that. Like, 99% of Konosuba is doing anything but fighting the Demon King. Because the world they live in is completely imbalanced, and in the second season, Kazuma just invents technology in the isekai world that exists in our world. He builds a kotatsu, and then sells it to this guy who just sells weird gadgets and shit, and becomes the richest person in the world. So he's just like, well, what the fuck? We don't have to fight the Demon King anymore. Or we can just do whatever we want now. That is what the joke of Konosuba. And fucking nobody understands it. Meanwhile, this show, the fucking Eminence of Shadow, whatever the fuck, has a 7.8 on my anime list. Like, how the fuck is this show one of the most popular anime this season and one of the highest rated anime this season? When there is nothing original or interesting about this anime. It drives me fucking nuts. And then I see people make fun of Konosuba and just completely miss the fucking point of it. And then every isekai under the sun just does something that it already did. It already made fun of it. Konosuba was so fucking far ahead of the game. And that's why I get so pissed off when I realize we still don't have a season 3. It's been 5 years since Konosuba had a new season on TV. What the fuck? And look at what has happened since then. Look at how many things have come out that Konosuba has already covered. It's ridiculous. It pisses me off. The Eminence of Shadow sucks. This show is fucking terrible. Okay? And I don't want to hate it so much because I do think it has maybe a little bit of potential. Because what is most interesting about it is that it's basically Overlord. So, you know, clever and original idea, but whatever. You don't have to be super original, okay? You can do things in a slightly different way. And so, this is about a guy who is seemingly an ordinary person, but he actually has this immense power, and he wants to build a secret organization that can rule the world from the shadows or some shit like that. It's fine, okay? That's a fine concept. Except, like I said, this guy is trying to not draw attention to himself. So most of the anime is just him doing completely pointless shit that has no bearing on the plot whatsoever. None of it is fucking relevant. And at the entire time, the main character is going, whoa, I'm a background character. Hey, you've seen this trope before. We're going to do this trope right now. Except we're going to be funny because we're pointing out that we did the trope. No, you're just making a bad joke and admitting that you're making a bad joke. That doesn't make the bad joke a good joke. It's still a bad joke. This anime does not realize that self-awareness
is not a punchline. It's fucking annoying. The skits in this anime go on for so unbearably long. Like, there's this one scene where the guy, for some bizarre reason, like, even though he says he's not drawing attention to himself, he does lots of things that draw attention to himself. So he signs up for this fencing tournament, this sword fighting tournament, or whatever, goes up against the strongest character in the school, and then gets fucking blown out in one hit. Okay, so it's like, okay, cool. Then he's like, no, wait, I can still fight! And then gets up, does the same thing, gets blown out in one hit. He does this like 30 times. It's fucking insanity watching this. He just does it over and over and over. It wasn't funny the first time. It wasn't funny the other 29 times. And that's what this show is doing. It just continuously rehashes these terrible tropes that are not funny, that are not fun to watch. And it's just like, ha, isn't this so stupid? Yeah, I hate it. Please stop doing that because it bothers me. And so when you actually do get a serious plot point, it's hard to take seriously because it's like what the fuck is even happening in this show for real? Like, sometimes things just happen and it's like, okay, I guess now suddenly we're at the serious part. So I left off at episode 6 or 7, and what happened at the very end of that episode is that there's another organization. There's basically a different group of people who are doing the exact same thing the main character is doing. They have a secret organization where they're doing whatever they want, and they're also called Shadow Garden. So it's the Soldier Boy meme of, they stealing my motherfucking blow. My motherfucking blow? They're stealing my motherfucking flow. Word for word, bar for bar. That's what they're doing. And then they take over the school at the end of the episode. And that's it, I guess. And then the main character just runs in front of someone's attack and fucking dies or something. The main character's already died, I think, twice in this show. He just gets reincarnated or some other shit happens. Like, the show just reinvents itself almost every episode. Except every time it gets worse. So, literally the first episode of this show was about the guy being just normal, everyday high school character who, you know, no one cares about. He's just a very average guy, but secretly, by night, he's a vigilante, going around and fighting other people, stopping criminals. That's an awesome premise. Why did they just stick with that? Why did they instead go to an isekai battle harem high school from like 2015? That's so much worse, and it's so stupid, and it's so fucking irritating watching this guy, again, just constantly smugly going, I'm a background character, whoa, I'm pretending not to, I'm pretending to be retarded. That's what this show is. This show is literally, I'm only pretending to be retarded. That fucking terrible meme. That's what this show is. And it is so terrible. It's fucking irritating. I don't like it at all. God, I can't believe it. Like, really, on paper, the show doesn't sound too bad. Even with the battle magic high school shit, even that is done maybe a little bit better than some stuff in 2015, like Chivalry of a Failed Knight. I know most people like that anime. I thought it was fucking terrible. Or the Asterisk War. No one likes that. You know, it's better than those, I guess, marginally. It has a little bit of potential there. It's just so irritating having to watch this guy go through his regular school shit. And again, just constantly pointing out the tropes that are stupid that he's making fun of. It's fucking... God. How is this show so popular? I asked this on Twitter and someone, Amethyst Italian, said it's because the main character is relatable and he's edgy. So I'm like, oh. So it's for Classroom of the Elite fans. Is that what's going on? Is this popular with Classroom of the Elite fans? Because that's what I got out of Classroom of the Elite, where, you know, people like that series because the main character's, wow, so relatable. Oh, he's just like me, for real. He's like what the audience thinks they are, essentially, except not even close. They're not nearly as cool as they think they are, nor as smart as they think they are. But whatever. That's what I got out of Classroom of the Elite. And so I guess that's what's happening with
this anime. In any case, it's terrible. I'm going to continue watching it, though, just because I don't feel like dropping anything. But holy shit, is this anime fucking grating.
You guys have no idea how happy this AD makes me. This is the best fucking AD ever.
Diamond in the name of devil!
Well, I am caught up with Chainsaw Man, and I'm really glad that they are adapting this manga slowly, because I don't have to feel bad about not having read any of the manga in a while. Which, actually, that's not really true. I started reading the manga like a couple months ago, and I got up to about 30 chapters or so. And then I just kind of stopped, and I'm like, oh, I'll read the rest of it later. It feels like a very fast-paced manga. It feels like there's constantly stuff happening, and there's very, very little downtime in between the, episodes of them going out to fight demons, or devils, rather. But this anime is taking it quite slowly and really taking its time. It looks like we're going to maybe get to, like, chapter 50. If that, honestly. Like, they're at the little string of chapters, I guess the small arc of the Eternity Devil, where they get trapped in the hotel, and there's this weird body horror monster in it, and, like, that's a few chapters in the manga, but it's not like they were in here for, like, half of episode 5 and the entirety of episode 6, and they're still not done. So it's, like, almost 2 or 3 episodes worth of content right there. And it's like, wow, they really are kind of... I don't want to say they're dragging it out, because that kind of gives it a bad implication. And I don't think it's bad. I actually really enjoy the pacing quite a lot. It just feels a lot more memorable. Like, each moment feels a lot stronger, because they polished the fuck out of this series. I feel like we have really reached an apex with anime production for these very popular mainstream titles that are getting adaptations. I mean, sure, we get original anime that pop off every now and then, but when it comes to manga adaptations, we had My Hero Academia back in 2016 was kind of the start of something, where it was probably the first Shonen Jump Weekly property that went into a seasonal format, where they're like, okay, hey, you know how we adapt a Shonen Jump property by giving it like 200 episodes with lots of filler? What if we don't do that? What if we do 13 episodes, and then the 13 episodes are amazing? And instead of adapting 5 chapters per volume, we adapt 1 or 2 chapters per volume, not per episode, I meant to say. What if we do that? And yeah, and then we'll just break it up into seasons so that the production staff can take breaks, and they can just keep up the quality, and they can just keep making these seasons that are, like, sure, there will be some downtime when we're not, putting out new episodes, but people are going to be really excited to watch these new episodes because they're going to be so good. And so, yeah, Hiraraka did that for at least the first couple of seasons. Maybe season 4 was where... I think that's where people say it fell off, although I completely disagree. Season 5, definitely. Although it seems to be coming back. I've actually heard really good things about season 6 so far. So, I don't know. My Hero Academia comeback arc. But anyway, the success of My Hero Academia... or rather what that anime did, it was very successful. People were really positive about it, and they were like, wow, this is a totally new direction for Shonen Jump adaptations. And so, that, I think, inspired later adaptations, like The Promised Neverland, first season, or Kimetsu no Yaiba, or Jujutsu Kaisen, where now you're getting these super, super polished productions for these manga that people really love and appreciate. And I know, like, not every Shonen Jump property is getting that treatment, Shokugeki was a little bit ahead of the curve with, it came out before Hiraraka, so I guess that one doesn't really count, but Dr. Stone is like, what else? Fucking Yuna and the Haunted Hot Springs, I guess. I doubt Ayakashi Triangle is going to have a super polished production, but you get what I mean. Boruto still sucks. Black Clover was Black Clover week? Yeah, Black Clover Shonen Jump. I got it mixed up with Fairy Tail, which is not Shonen Jump. Anyway, or the other Fairy Tail, Eden Zero. Anyway, point is, we've now come to Chainsaw Man, which I think is what all of these other modern Shonen Jump adaptations are trying to be. They're very polished. It's very polished. It's extremely well animated. And the style is like, it's not a groundbreaking style that you've never seen before in anime. It looks like anime. You know, it just looks like anime just in general. But it's just so well animated. Like, all the colors are so crisp. All the characters are so expressive, and they're so animated. Like, this series has some of the most body language and just character animation that I think I've ever seen in any anime. It's like, it's not even the big Sakuga moments or anything. It's like moments when a character is like kind of scrunched down in the corner of the room because they're completely out of focus. Even then, they're still animated. Like, there's so much attention to detail in this series. Like, even like when you get a close-up of a character's face, you get like the like corners of their eyes properly animated. You see their eyelashes all lined out and detailed. It's like there's just so much detail in this. Like, it really is just a spit-shined, super well-polished anime that you really don't see with anything. I mean, I would almost describe it as like movie quality. Like, it's almost to the point where it becomes uncanny, because sometimes characters are moving so much, because sometimes there are so many frames to the animation where it's like, they didn't have to go that hard on it. And sometimes I kind of wonder, was it really necessary for this animation to be like so smooth? Because seriously, sometimes characters will move so smoothly that it almost looks like it's interpolated 60 FPS animation. You know, those pieces of shit that people post online. Like, ooh, Studio Ghibli food looks so delicious. Fucking destroys the entire clip by putting in a program that makes it 60 frames per second for no reason. I mean, Chainsaw Man never looks that bad, but sometimes it kind of has that spirit. You know, it's kind of like, sometimes it's a little too smooth, you know, and it's like, okay, you didn't maybe chill out a little bit. It's not that big of a deal, this scene that you're animating right here. But I mean, I guess that's, you know what, if a complaint is that the show has, if I'm complaining about a show having too much animation, then it must be doing something right. So that's fine. And as for like the story and stuff like that, it's fun. Chainsaw Man is a fun series. I haven't gotten super far into it, so I don't know what the big twists are or anything. And that is kind of the thing that's maybe holding me back a little bit from appreciating it a ton, is just like, where is this series going? It does have a goal. Like, it has set up a clear major villain that I imagine it will get to eventually. And it's actually kind of like, I think kind of like Jujutsu Kaisen or something, where there's like, or actually I think it's also kind of like Kimetsu no Yaiba. I mean, I guess this is kind of a common thing in shonen anime, but it's like there's this one particular bad guy that is like so strong that if you consume fragments of it, then you also obtain some of its power. So yeah, I think a good similarity is Yaiba, because I think the main villain in Yaiba has that sort of a thing about him. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good story. I just want it just hasn't done anything crazy yet, but it is fun. The characters are fun. I think Denji is a great main character. Extremely immature, but the series is fully aware of it. And I think that's something that maybe some critics of the series are like underlooking, because I see some people who are just like, oh, I just can't stand Denji, he's so terrible. And I understand why they would say that. But the show itself understands that. It has other characters that are like, this guy's a fucking idiot. And then Denji himself is just like, yeah,
I am fighting for completely stupid, juvenile reasons. I don't have anything ambitious to look forward to. I don't have anybody I want to protect. I just want to feel some fucking titties. So sorry that my life has been so shit that is literally my only goal. And it's like, I kind of understand him. I kind of respect him for that. And I respect the series for that. I think it's written really, really well. Power is a ton of fun. She's so funny just in general, and her chemistry with Denji is fantastic. They're such a great couple because sometimes they're just like, it's like they bicker with each other as if they're dating or something, as if they're an actual couple, where it's like sometimes they're just perfectly in sync with each other. They're perfectly in tune with each other, and sometimes they're just like, yeah, fuck you, Denji. No, fuck you, Power. You know what it's actually kind of like? It's kind of like Cosmo and Aqua, I guess, where they're constantly bickering, they're constantly fighting, but at the same time, they are totally cut from the same cloth. And yeah, they're a lot of fun. And then there's the guy who's just, he just has to deal with them, and he's just like, oh my, fuck both of these guys, god damn it. He's great. Yeah, so it's a fun series so far. I like it, and I'm just looking forward to the rest of it, and I guess I'm looking forward to whatever they do after they do this first season, because MAPPA kind of works mysteriously nowadays. We have absolutely no idea when Attack on Titan is finishing, when they're going to have the third season of that. So I imagine that Chainsaw Man will eventually end, and they'll be like, oh yeah, Chainsaw Man, second season, and then not say when it's going to happen until basically when it happens, but that's fine. Yeah, really, really fun though. I'm glad that this is an anime that people are really celebrating, because it has all the right things. I think it has some great themes, it has some great characters, and it has phenomenal presentation, like top-of-the-line presentation, gorgeous soundtrack. Even the casting, the voice acting is great. Power, again, voiced by Ai Fairuz. I would say this is one of my favorite roles of this whole anime year. One of the best voice acting roles that I've seen from anime this year. So yeah, just no big complaints about Chainsaw Man. You love to see it. You actually love to see the most popular and most acclaimed anime actually living up to the hype. Wow, what a concept!
Well, I am caught up to Akiba Maid War, or Akiba Maid Senso, and it's still pretty fun, but I think, I assume I talked about this in my first impressions. I kind of forgot what I said, but I think, basically, when I started this, my impression of it was that it's fun, and I actually really appreciate what it's doing, but it's also just not that great, because it's kind of a Monster of the Week format, and there's only one character that I think is particularly strong in this series. So it's kind of a gimmick show, in a way, and that is still my overall impression of it. It's kind of a gimmick anime. It's about maid cafes and working in a maid cafe, except it's all the maid cafes are more like gangs, and there's just lots of violence between them. So yeah, and again, really cool concept, and it's a lot of fun, but the Monster of the Week format, where it's just like, oh, let's just go to this cafe, and then it's this gimmick, and it's like, usually just ends up with them killing a bunch of people, and it's like, I don't know, dude. It's all, again, it's fun, it's alright, and I do think that what's interesting about it is that I think this anime is trying to make some kind of a statement about, like, I guess you could call it objectification of maid cafes, because it's like maid cafes, as well as the general culture of moe, is something that is very much glamorized, I guess, and I don't know how, like, how do I want to say this? It's kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like the people who are part of this aren't looked at as real people. It's like what they become in the eyes of many others is essentially the image that they're presenting. So like a maid in a maid cafe is like supposed to do these specific things, and again, it's not like they're an actual person in the eyes of some others. And with Moe, it's like, oh, I just want these girls to be cute because just for my own satisfaction, without much regards to how they would feel about it and their own dignity or things like that. I'm not entirely sure how I can say this off the top of my head, but I feel like Akiba Maid War is like, actually being a maid in Maid Cafe fucking sucks, and we should stop glamorizing it so much. I mean, maybe it does come from a place of respect. Maybe it does come from a place of love where, like, I think this is a manga adaptation, and the person who wrote it, like, really respects maid cafes, right? That could be it. I don't know if it's necessarily trying to be critical, but there is something to take away with how toxic this anime is. Like, this anime is very, very toxic, where these characters are doing absolutely insane, ridiculous shit without question. The main character of this anime joins a maid cafe for no reason other than because she likes maid cafes. And she just wants to be that. She wants to, and she's like, oh, being a maid is so great because you wear a cute outfit and you make people happy, and that's great. And then she gets caught in this fucking violent gang war where everybody around her is dying, and it's like, why would anyone cope with that for any reason? It's not like it's not like they set up or enforce some kind of a trap upon her where she's just completely unable to leave. It's just, no, she just stays there because she still says, oh, being a maid is really, really great. It's something that is so weirdly normalized in this culture. I don't know, dude. Yeah, and also she has to live at the maid cafe because they can't actually pay her. So her life literally becomes her occupation, and they're in this complete shithole office building. It's just like a room somewhere in this really run-down office building. That's the maid cafe, and they're called the Oinky Doink Cafe. They wear pig outfits, and they make a bunch of pig puns, and they're like, ooh, welcome to the pigsty. Like, nothing about it, at least this cafe, is cute or endearing. It's gross. It's weird, and then the anime presents it like it's really cool and really cute, but I think as the audience, we're supposed to be like, this is really weird and wrong, and I think that's kind of what it's trying to say. Like, Akiba Maid War so far hasn't said anything specific about it, but I think it's presenting the really weird and wrong aspects of this show and letting us think for ourselves, like, oh, it's not really endorsing this, it's just explaining why this is bad. In a really, really over-the-top way, of course, but I think it's a pretty cool thing that this anime is doing. I like that it has a particular message, or some kind of theme behind it. So, yeah, but other than that, still my thoughts kind of remain about this. It's an alright series. I would recommend it because it is pretty unique, and it's fun. I do enjoy it, but I do still think that there's only one good character in this show, which is Ranko. And it's like the series knows this, because it gives way more characterization to her than anyone else. Like, she has flashbacks, she has development, she has so many scenes. I guess she's the main character, the actual main character of this series, but everyone else is just kind of there. Even the actual main character is just kind of there, although that has changed quite a bit because a pretty big thing happened about halfway into the show, which I was surprised by. I was surprised that it went in this particular direction. Not going to say what it is, but it was interesting. So maybe there's going to be more of a plot in the second half, more of a concrete central plot as opposed to just the standard monster of the week type of thing. Yeah, looking forward to that if that's the case. Or if not, then it's probably still going to be fun all the way through. So I'm caught up to Mob Psycho 100, Season 3. It's fucking awesome. I don't think I have anything else to say, besides, you know, what I've already said in the first impressions in my podcast. It's good, though. It's real good, and you should watch it, because it's good. It's a good anime. Mob Psycho 100. good anime. I saved the best for last, or rather my favorite for last. I caught up to Bocchi the Rock. This freaking show, dude. I love this. It has been a while since I loved a brand new anime like this. Like, not since Kaguya-sama. And I know Kage is still going, and we had a third season this year, but I mean, like, a brand new thing. I mean, I know Kage is good. You know, Kage has always been good. But I think it's been since that thing first started where I'm, like, really engaged with every episode, and I'm just loving everything that it's doing. The way it's presenting itself. This series has some of the most creative expressions that I've seen in any anime. And although I think it's fair to say Chainsaw Man is probably the best animated show, because it's just so polished and it's so just, there's just so much detail to it. The way Bocchi will go so out of bounds with expressing itself and use these really, really out there art styles to create these images and these scenes that you never really seen portrayed like that before, if that makes sense. It's just so creative, you know, it's so unique, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that it definitely deserves a lot of credit for that. Yeah, dude, I can't get enough of this freaking show. But of course, it's not just that it's really well animated. It's the fact that it's so, like, it's so intelligent. It's so smart and it's so relatable. And relatability, I think, is a very, like, there's a very tight line that it walks upon. Because relatability is something that can be good. Obviously, it connects you to something. But I think it can also be a downside. Like, well, I haven't often said this, but I don't know when the last time I've talked about this was, and I need to refresh myself on this anime to see if I still actually feel this way. But when I first saw Your Lie in April back in 2016, I fucking hated that show, and to this day, I consider it one of my least favorite anime of all time, if not my actual least favorite. Maybe some other shit is. I mean, there are worse anime than Your Lie in April. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying my experience with this was so bad that I actively despised every minute of it. And the reason is because it was relatable. Not in a good way, though. It was relatable in, like, yeah, this was kind of how I was in high school, and that wasn't a good thing, and I moved on from it, and I'm a better person because of it. That's how I felt about the characters in that show. These characters who are trying to say all these really deep things, and they just think they have the world figured out, you know? They think they're so freaking smart, and they understand emotions and feelings, and they always say all these really deep things, and it's like, you're in fucking high school, dude. You'll know shit. And I didn't know shit back then. So, when I say Bocchi the Rock, an anime in high school is relatable, that can be a very weird thing. That can be a very questionable statement. But it is very relatable. But relatable in these very, very specific ways that you're just going to get them or you don't. That's what Bocchi the Rock is. You get this anime or you don't. And there's, like, if you don't get it, I'm not going to blame you. It's probably just because the experiences depicted in this anime are so just unique. Like, they're so specifically catered to a very particular person that if you're not that person, you're not really going to understand it. I mean, you can maybe not understand it and still appreciate it. That's fine. But I've seen some people who are just like, I just can't get into Bocchi the Rock because it's just, you know, the characters are just like this. Or Bocchi, it's Bocchi specifically who is that character. And her struggles are depicted in this way. That's, you know, only some people are going to get that. But they acknowledge this. There's a line that one of the characters says, and she says something like,
it's not going to connect with everybody. It's not going to connect with a lot of people. But the people it does connect with, it's going to hit really hard. That is the exact perfect definition of Bocchi the Rock. This show summarized itself. It defined itself perfectly. Because that's exactly what it's like. The way Bocchi... So what it's about 4 high school girls who are joining a band. K-On! It's a K-On! Show. But the main character, Bocchi... her name is, her nickname is Bocchi. Her real name is Hitori Goto. You can tell they really wanted her name to be Hitori Bocchi, but that was already taken, so they settled for something else. Anyway, yeah, so she's the guitarist, and she is so severely anxious. She suffers from such social anxiety that she's never made a friend in her entire life. She's in high school, and she hasn't done anything. She cannot talk to people. She cannot handle any social situations to save her life. And the way she crumples under pressure and the way she struggles with these things, again, you're either going to get it or you don't. Like the questions she asks where she's meeting up with a friend at a cafe, and she's just like, wait, how do I walk into a cafe? Like, how do people do this? Do people just, like, literally go into buildings without permission or anything? Like, is that allowed? And it's so silly and it's so dumb, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I get it. How do people do things like that? It's crazy, bro. And the way this anime starts, just immediately I knew that this was great. Because she, you know, she's at a young age, she's like 10 or something, and, you know, or she's about to enter middle school, and she watches, she watches like a music video on TV, which is like the perfect way to relate to me, because that's exactly what I did around that age. I was watching lots of music videos on Fuse and MTV, at a time when MTV actually had music. So yeah, and she gets inspired by it, so she picks up a guitar, because the guitarist was interviewed afterwards, and he's like, oh yeah, first I was, you know, someone who didn't really talk to anybody, but then I became a guitarist, and I became really cool, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna do the same thing. She picks up a guitar, and then gets super good at it in 3 years, and at the end of middle school, you see her, she's just shredding on this guitar. She's got Pro Tools open on her computer, and she's like, I haven't made a single friend! It's awesome, dude. And it's like, I totally get that. I get, you know, joining a hobby and you know, like, changing your lifestyle because it's like, you think this is going to help you, and then it doesn't do anything for you. It's, whoops, accidentally pressed the stop button. Anyway, that is how it's like for me, and that is kind of some things that I have done. And like the way she tries making her, like, she can't initiate with anybody, so she tries making herself open so that others initiate with her. So she's like, oh, I'll wear my some band tees. I'm gonna wear a band tee, and then someone else is gonna recognize that band and then talk to me about it. No, or I'll just like do this. You know, I'll just like draw my attention to myself. I'll bring my guitar to school. I'll bring these vinyls to my desk. And someone will notice and talk to me about them. No, that's not how it works, Bocchi. I'm 10 years late to this anime. I really needed this in my middle school and high school years, because that is exactly some shit that I have done. And yeah, man, it hits. It really hits, but it's so funny watching it. Because again, it's relatable, but it's presented in a really, really fun way. I think that's what makes it click so hard with me, is that it's very lighthearted. It's very jokey. It's a slice of life series. I think it's like a 4-coma manga. I think this is a Kirara Jump series, so, you know, literally takes after K-On! In fact, actually, they reference the Kirara Jump because one of the characters says, a wise man once said, every anime OP where the characters jump is a god tier anime.
is for a god tier anime, and it's like, who said that? Who said that, motherfucker? Who's the wise guy on the internet that said that? But it's great. It's so funny. Yeah, and Bocchi, the way they animate her, like, mental episodes where she just, you know, someone talks to her and then she's just like screaming internally, and they animate her in so many different ways. Her voice actress is phenomenal. Doesn't have a lot of roles. I was like looking this up and I'm like, is this like a newcomer voice actress? And not exactly, but she doesn't have a lot of roles. I think she was someone in Wake Up Girls, that idol group or something, or whatever the fuck Wake Up Girls was. Wake Up Girls is like an old thing. I don't even know if that's still a thing these days, but I don't know. But yeah, just phenomenal voice acting, and again, just great presentation all around. But the thing that really escalates this anime from like oh, this is really fun to, okay, this might be one of my favorite anime of all time, is the bassist of this band. One of the characters they bring in is this bassist who's kind of like a kudere, but not really. Like, she isn't that tropey. You know, like I guess she could be defined as such because she has a very low, quiet, mumbly voice, and she just has this very monotonous expression on her. She reminds me actually of the quiet girl in Nichijou, the one who's always doing like weird stuff, you know, except again, she's not that over the top and not that tropey. She feels like a real person. But that's also why I love her so much, because she's like a canonical Mew-core fucking Fantano head. She is so freaking great. She's always like full of it, but you have no idea if she actually is or not. She'll say something and you're just kind of like, is she actually serious? Because one thing they do in the first or second episode, Bocchi joins her and the drummer. They're already friends, so they're trying to get Bocchi to introduce. They're trying to introduce each other to Bocchi, right, and get Bocchi part of the group. So they're like, okay, let's talk about the music that we listen to. And Rio, the bassist, is like, lately I've been looking at the top 40 chart in Saudi Arabia for recommendations. and the drummer's just like, no, you fucking haven't. And she's like, yeah, I have. And so that's why you're just like, is she actually for real? Like, she'll be doing these things that seem so absurd, but she's so earnest about them. Like, like, you really have no idea if she's being serious or not. And that's just how she always is. Also, when they do the performance together, they do their first live performance, they're trying to, the drummer's trying to cheer up Bocchi because she's super nervous about having to play in front of people, and she's like, oh, don't worry about it. If it's bad, nobody's gonna notice. And then Rio's like, I'm gonna notice. like she's a fucking music snob IRL, and that is so funny. She is so freaking great. She's always one step ahead of everyone. But again, not in that way where she's just like some wacky slice of life character, because she does have some real moments. That line that I said about, you know, not appealing to everybody, but just appealing really hard to certain people. She's the one who says that. Like, she has the fucking deepest, realest line in the whole anime. And God, she's fucking awesome. Just everything about this character is so awesome. And I freaking love her. And I love this show. I am just loving everything about this anime. It's so fun. It's so inspiring. It's really uplifting because, again, even though it does depict these very real issues of social anxiety and shit like that, and, you know, lack of confidence and things like that, it's still presented in such a fun way. And at the end of the day, it's about this girl overcoming those things, overcoming those struggles, getting better at not just playing music and not just achieving her dreams, but just, like, becoming a better person. You know, that's what makes this anime so cool. And that's why I think so many people like me are really, really passionate about this, because it's just so nice to see something like that. So Bocchi the Rock, of all the anime I've seen so far this year, at least, you know, I mean, I haven't finished a lot of anime, of course. I haven't finished this either, but at least of all the anime that I've tried watching this year, this might be my favorite. This might be my genuine anime of the year. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how the second half goes. But so far, it has just been an absolute freaking blast. I love this series. Just so cool. Everything about it. So freaking cool. Love it. And, unless I think of something else to add at the very end of this, this is going to be the end of my seasonal catch-up. So, thanks for watching this whole thing, or listening to this whole thing. I hope you haven't been watching. I hope you haven't been watching. It's literally just been my face. My fucking terrible, hideous face. Ew. Disgusting. Why would you watch that? But, in case you just wanted to hear what I have to say about these things, thank you very much. And maybe I'll try coming back at the end of the season and give you my thoughts about them, or maybe I'll, like, do a podcast, or maybe I'll do a fucking video one of these days. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to play Pokemon Glitch, as in Violet. See you later.